I think the Dan Quinn hire is interesting. I don't think it's necessarily exciting or something that had fans flocking to the season ticket website. But I think whatever happens at quarterback could have that impact. I think by far, frankly, the most important thing is going to be, can they develop a young passer that they're going to take at number 2? Kliff Kingsbury's coming to town. He's going to be your offensive coordinator. So what do we know about Kliff? We know that he has middling success. I mean, his record's probably a little worse than Dan Quinn's as a head coach in Arizona. When Kyler was healthy and they were able to put that thing together, they did have I think they went 11-5 one season. But Kliff's all about offense. He's all about developing quarterbacks. If you go back over the course of time in his tree, at Texas Tech, he worked with Baker Mayfield. He worked with Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Davis Webb was on that roster. Clearly, Kyler and he were kind of lockstep in Arizona.
At least early on.
Right. This past year, Kliff was at USC working with Caleb Williams, which is going to be a thing. But before we get into what happens next, I think it's important to hear from Patrick Mahomes, clearly the best quarterback in football, talking about what Kliff Kingsbury means to him.
Yeah, just a great person, man. Someone that truly loves the game of football, works his tail off every single day, and gets the best out of his guys, especially his quarterbacks. And so I'm excited for him to have another opportunity in the NFL. I thought he did a great job in Arizona, especially with the offense. And so I think he'll do a great job in Washington, getting that offense going.
Going through him that you can relate to us, that you can kind of tell about?
Yeah, I think he always believed in me from the beginning, even when I wasn't getting a lot of offers coming out of high school. And then when I got there, he evolved the offense to really fit my game. And I think that's what you have to do as a great offensive coordinator in this league, is you have to evolve the offense to fit the guys that you have. And I think he's done that everywhere he's been.
Now, listen, Mahomes is going to speak highly of his college coach. There's no reason not to at this point. But I think some of it's sincere. I think a big thing with Mahomes was, and this is something that Andy Reid has clearly done really well, is embrace who he is, embrace the arm strength, embrace the escapability, and let him be himself. And I think, Kingsbury being with Caleb Williams this past year at SC, there's some of that. Really interesting. I think because of Kyler Murray specifically, we have this vision in our head that Kliff only wants guys that can really run, like athletic, get out of the pocket. I talked to Charles Davis while I was out in Vegas, and he said, go back and look at those Texas Tech teams. A lot of those guys you never heard of were pocket passers, and the scheme just got them wide open. One of the knocks on Kliff is that the scheme doesn't evolve, and they look good early, and then they don't later. I think you brought that up a couple weeks ago, Mitch. But regardless, Mahomes talking highly about Kliff Kingsbury makes sense to me. I don't find it as much of a surprise. Do you believe that because he was in LA with Caleb, this puts Washington in some sort of position where it's Caleb or bust, and trading up to number 1 is a possibility, that like all these other things are a possibility?
Well, certainly everything's on the table. I mean, you think about how confident we were with the Ben Johnson stuff, going to head coach. And I think, I think that everything's on the table because you have a brand new front office that we haven't seen work together before. They haven't worked together before. They don't know exactly what they're doing yet. Adam Peters said they're very early on in the draft process. So I don't think they even know kind of who their main target is at quarterback. But I do think it's a good point to make about, obviously Kyler can run around and do all those things well, and Mahomes does as well, but in much different ways. And Drake May runs a version of the air raid down at UNC. Obviously, we saw Jaden Daniels and some of the things that he does. I don't think this points to a specific quarterback, and I think this might be kind of where JP, you and I are a little bit different on the stats, because I'm more excited about Dan Quinn than I am Kliff Kingsbury a little bit, because some of my concerns with Kliff are that in his 4 years in Arizona, he only had one 1,000-yard either receiver or rusher, because he spreads the ball around so much, which is one of the issues that we had with Eric Bieniemy last year, that he didn't do a good job of getting the ball into his playmakers' hands. Now, obviously, the development of the quarterback is more important in the short term than, maybe Terry McLaurin's success per se. But I also look at it and I wonder, will the pieces be used in their best in their best manner? Will Terry and Jahan be used in their best manner, or is it going to be a a true kind of spread offense, air raid offense, where you are stretching the field both laterally and horizontally? And I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it plays out. But I like Kliff, and I think for the quarterback development, it's very important to have a guy like him in house who's done it before and has done it in college and all that and all of that. But I am a little concerned about how that offense is going to look as we start getting into the season.